Hi, and welcome to JenTalks. I am just starting my live stream and I'm just clicking on Instagram to give it a little start so we can get started. So, as the name of the talk is, it's actually how to improve your self-esteem, but this is part two of the talk rather than part one, which was released last week. So, if you seen this talk for the first time, it would be a good idea to go to the channel and just check out part one because there's a little bit of foundation information that would help you for today's talk. So realistically, we talked last week about self-esteem being the foundations that everything else is built upon, and that's formed at our formative years, which are between 0 to 7. And a lot of people would struggle with the idea of even kind of admitting to themselves or even having a little bit of shame around having low self-esteem. But your self-esteem is your estimation of your worth. And sometimes what happens to us in life is, even if we've had the most amazing start and we do begin with really strong foundations, sometimes how we value ourselves or how we show people in the world how we value ourselves isn't always to the same standards that we actually to the value that we're worth realistically, which is where that lovely quote comes from, you're worth it, or I am worth it, or I feel so worthy right now. And it's a beautiful affirmation that people use from time to time. But sometimes when we're using affirmations, the thing that can be missing is the visualization and the emotion. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So I've spoken last week about the concept of saving, and saving is also on my channel, and it's the idea of using an item to put a little bit of energy into as you relive a personal win and savor that moment. And the idea that the mind doesn't understand or actually doesn't know the difference between what we imagine vividly, so in other words with all the detail there, and emotion, compared to what's actually true. As long as we're reliving it in our mind, it believes it to be true. So savoring can do the same for us as stretching ourselves outside our comfort zones can, except instead of having to do something new, we can revisit a challenge that we've overcame over and over in our mind, as if we were doing it over and over again. So that's saving. Then we talked about, and I'm going to definitely be talking about that in greater detail today, the idea of getting to know yourself. And it's one of the things that we tend to do in life is really run away from ourselves. If we've had any kind of challenging times as a young person, we tend to abandon ourselves. We tend to come away from the emotions and come up into the head. And also we tend to abandon our own needs and our own wants. And only this week I was working with a group, and a beautiful lady that I'm working with at the moment came up to me at the end of the class, and she said to me, Jenny, last week when you asked us that question, like, what is it that we would love to do if fear wasn't in the way? There was no barriers. And she said, I went home and she said, I couldn't actually think of anything that I could think of because I've never been asked that question before. I've never taken the time to actually go, what would I like to do? And she said it was a little bit emotional for me. And of course it would be. It's that moment of realization that up until this point, your life has just been about doing things, particularly for other people. And realistically, unless somebody asks us that question, we very rarely press that pause button and say, what is it that you want to do? And they're the big, powerful questions that teach us more about ourselves than anything else. And when I say what you want to do, it doesn't mean what you want to do for a living. It can just be, what do you want to do that you will fill you with joy? What is your heart calling for? What do you desire? And if fear wasn't in the way, because that's often blocking, we think, oh, I'd love to go back to college, or I'd love to get a job, or I'd love to start a family, or whatever it might be, but fear gets in the way, limitations and negative beliefs around what we can and cannot do. So I would love for you to start slowing down so that you can get to know yourself a little bit more. And although I'm talking about slowing down, the first thing people think about is, oh, I haven't got time to slow down. But when we slow down, we actually make more time. Slowing down can be as little as 2 minutes every day. Just take 2 minutes out for yourself. Take 2 minutes out to breathe. Take 2 minutes out to pray, if that's what you like to do. Take 2 minutes out to cycle, to listen to your favorite song. But to do something that you're actually doing just by itself. Often when we listen to our favorite song, we're also driving the car, or we're also putting the shopping away, or we're also typing on the computer. Like, to just do something that is just for you, whether it's, take a bath, that is about luxury, about dropping in and slow down and prevent yourself, refrain from filling those moments with busyness. I catch myself doing it all the time. Busyness is one of my go-tos, particularly if I'm anyway challenged or anyway stressed. I'm like busy, 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 busy. And then I can't think. I can't stop and think. I just keep doing, doing, doing. And of course, when we just keep doing, we're running away, not just from our lives, but we're really running away from ourselves. And that moment of, years ago, we used to have the lazy Sunday afternoons, to gift yourself a lazy morning, evening, afternoon. I know, a whole Sunday might be too much for you at this point, but if you could rob even an hour that you just choose not to fill. We think of time as a container that we have to keep filling it up, filling it with things. And if we don't fill it with things, it's a waste of time. And that's to do with our conditioning as we grew up as well. And I get that. But here's the thing is, there is no such thing as wasting time. There is only wasting time, efficiently or sensibly or not. There's better ways or less better ways to spend time. So you can spend time wisely is the word I was looking for. You can spend time wisely, or you can spend time less wisely. But here's the thing, resting and pausing and reflecting inwards is a really good way to spend time. So if you go back then to having time to yourself, and instead of filling it with things, tasks, jobs, activities, hobbies, scrolling, texting, whatever it might be, to just drop in and allow your mind to talk to you. And if you don't like what you're hearing in your mind, because that's the reason we run so much from ourselves, because the thoughts are not pleasant. There's often a tyrant running the show, and we're like, oh, Jesus, I don't think I can listen to this voice in my head any longer. Get a pen and paper and write what's in your head and write it out, because what's in there is really being caused by stress or trauma or pain, or even, like I'd spoke a good bit before about the saboteurs, and I'll be continuing to speak about them over the next few weeks. But they are the saboteurs, which are part of the ego mind. And as young people, they were there to keep us safe. But now as adults, those survival strategies are no longer needed. So they're the ones running the show, telling you, oh my God, what are you doing lying on the couch? You want to get up and do something, or whatever it might be, telling you really that you're not good enough. So write them out, because actually seeing them in your own words is really powerful. Because here's the thing about running away from yourself is you're running away from your thoughts. You're also running away from your emotions. And the only way over an emotion is through it. So the more you repress it, the more it becomes stronger. It's like you condense it. So if you have these thoughts in your head and, they're ranting about something and they're fearful or they're resentful or they're angry, write them down, read them, connect with the emotion of the thought, and then let it go. Express it. You can express it verbally, you can express it, you've already expressed it by writing it down. But also the big thing about the emotion is acknowledging is only step one. Getting curious as to, like, what is it about my neighbor that makes me feel that way? Like, what's really going on? And another tool that just sprung to mind, which I am a huge fan of, is The Work by Byron Katie. And her website is thework.com. So she has these 4 beautiful questions that get us to challenge those thoughts that we have that really tend to beat us up. And it's, is it true? Is it absolutely true? Because that's what really separates, the one from the other. It's like, is it absolutely true, or is it just you think it's true? And then it's like, don't quote me on this, but it's like, how does it, when it's true, how does that make you feel? And then if that thought wasn't true, how would you feel, or who would you be without that thought? And it really takes us through the idea of those thoughts that, really we are convinced that somebody has said something. Oh, they only said that to me to upset me, or they knew that that would do this, or we mind read other people, and of course we can't read other people's minds. We also think we can predict the future, but only in the negative. We think, oh, well, now this is going to happen. This bad thing is going to go wrong. So it gets us to challenge those thoughts. She's also got some amazing worksheets and podcasts and videos about how to actually do their work if you need extra support. But that's a really useful tool if you do have major tornado thoughts, I call them, that are robbing you of your peace, but they're also robbing you of all your present moment joy. So part of getting to know ourselves, I'm going to wrap up on this point, is getting to know warts and all. It's not the rose-colored glasses, Little Miss Sunshine. It's, who is Jenny? What is she going through? What does she feel? What does she want? What is she missing? What is she angry about? What makes her happy? What makes her laugh? And sometimes along the way, whether it's through relationships, whether it's through challenging times, whether it's through mental health decline, whether it's through changes in life, like becoming a parent, changing jobs, getting divorced, moving house, whatever it may be. Sometimes we lose ourselves a little bit along the way. We're so busy firefighting that we forget that we are actually on our own journey. And one day we end up and we kind of go, okay, like I've got further in my journey, but I don't really know who I am. And how can you value yourself if you actually don't really know who you are? So it might sound like it's contradictory to actually look at your warts and all so that you can value yourself more. But it's the idea that all these flaws that we think we have, and by the way, we are all perfect in our own ways, because every side of us, every part of us is there for a reason. Like all emotions are a feedback device, but every little chink in our armor is all about us being unique in ourselves. And when we get to look at it, feel it, get to know it, and show ourselves some compassion around it, that's only then that we can accept ourselves fully and then work our way through those emotions that we're really struggling to contain. And it's the other side of that we start to go, okay, like, yeah, I have that little chink in my armor, but you know what? I'm kind of okay. I'm a pretty kind person. I'm solid. I'm patient. I'm loving, or whatever it might be. And of course, that in itself is a journey. It's not an overnight. It's not a 10-minute worksheet that you're going to download off the internet and, overnight, like speed dating. You're not going to speed date yourself, but you are going to get to know yourself. So I'm going to offer you the challenge from the time you listen to this video to spend the next, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, obviously you can say 3 to 4 months if you want, but the next few weeks to really down tools on a daily basis, 2 to 3 minutes a day if you can. Add a nice chunk in at the weekend, then an hour or two, a morning if you can, an afternoon or evening. Push it out to a day if you can get that time in your life at some point, and spend time with yourself. Not doing, just being. So you can be sitting, you can be lying, you can be walking, but just not doing other stuff as well. And let me know how you get on. Notice what's coming up. Notice it, write it down, question it, be aware of it, get curious with it, express it, and most of all, accept it and send it with love and kindness and compassion towards yourself, because every flaw that we think we have is a survival strategy that we have developed to survive and function in this world. And it may not be serving us any longer, and that's okay. So you just accept that that is a part of you that formed to help you thrive in a situation that wasn't that conducive to thriving at the time, and it is now time for you to flourish. So on that note, I'm going to leave it there, and I will be back for the final part where I'm going to really add in some more deeper tools that I think will be really helpful for you. So in the meantime, take your pauses, get to know yourself on all levels. Don't forget your savoring. And remember, the journey is about building and holding up those beautiful foundations that everything else is built upon. Every success, every action and thought that we make comes from the foundations of how we value ourselves, including how other people treat us, which is what I'm going to be talking about in great detail next week. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there for today. Have a fabulous week, whatever you're getting up to, and I will look forward to seeing you back here on my channel on JenTalks. And don't be afraid to reach out on any of my channels, whether it's a DM, a PM, an email. All my details are below. So I look forward to keeping in touch. So let me know how you're getting on. And thanks very much again for listening today. Take care.